Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristen Revere with Ask the Doulas, and I am thrilled to chat with Dominika Knossalla-Pado today. She is a certified dog trainer who graduated with honors from the prestigious Academy for Dog Trainers when her beloved Labrador, Lola, showed predatory behavior toward her newborn twins. Dominika realized most parents lack the tools and knowledge to navigate these moments safely. This experience inspired her to found Dog Meets Baby, now a trusted resource for families worldwide through their online courses, consultations, and free resources. As her twins grew into toddlers, their unpredictable movements scared even well-trained Lola. Searching for a way to keep everyone safe without constant separation, Dominika combined her professional expertise with her children's love of bubbles to create the innovative bubble concept. This simple idea that all animals have bubbles that keep them safe became the foundation for Lola and the Bubble Mission, her first children's book. So, welcome, Dominika. It's so lovely to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And I know our topic may branch off into other discussion points, but we are going to chat about Dog Meets Baby and that big transition of bringing baby home, and also diving into preparing for the other visitors and nannies and doulas who may be meeting the dog. So not just the baby preparation, but all of those postnatal guests or professional experts in and out of the home.
Yes, ask away. Happy to answer any questions you and your audience might have.
So from your personal experience and your passion for that big transition point, whether it's newborns and dogs or the toddler phase, I would love to hear some of your tips for families who have a dog or multiple dogs at home and are getting ready for the first moment of bringing baby home and how to focus on safety and also connection for the pet.
Yes, that's a great question. I always tell parents that even if your dog is an angel, and many people would describe Lola, a dog that would not hurt a fly. So if you have a dog like Lola, I still recommend that you have a plan for how your dog is going to meet your baby. And if you have time to practice this, so you can test various options that work best for you and your dogs. So it's very important that you have a plan for your dog when you are in labor. This is something, and it's not just one, because many things can go wrong and babies don't come on their due date. And it's always have a plan A, B, and C. So make sure that if this person is not responding and you have to go to the hospital in the middle of the night, you also you can call someone else. Because I know from my experience and other parents that I have talked to and other doulas that I have talked to, that many moms will be very stressed and because they don't know what's going on with their dog and they're in labor and the labor is stalling and it's just not a good headspace to be in when you're about to your baby. So just have a plan so you can relax and focus on yourself and the baby. And when baby's born and another thing is, even with home birth, it's also very important that you have a plan. Many dogs will struggle with how you will be acting and they might get really stressed and you may not want the dog to be there, or some dogs don't really do well with strangers in the house, and that can be very stressful. Or some dogs, especially with pregnant moms, they become very protective. It's a normal reaction, and they may not want the doula to be so close to their mom, and it's not a good scenario. So always have a plan. Who's going to take over the dog? Where is the dog going to stay? And that's for both, for home birth and for when you go to a birthing center or the hospital. because that's going to give you a peace of mind.
Exactly. And when I've attended home births, there have been a few different scenarios. Some dogs are older and very laid back, so it doesn't affect them. And
Yeah, absolutely.
others, like you said, they might get a little skittish or protective. And sometimes, depending on the midwife, there could be apprentices and assistants, and
Yes.
could be a doula there. And so a lot of other people. Sometimes there's a birth photographer. I've often had family members come and pick up the dog and take the dog for the labor portion and the early bonding phase. Sometimes there's a finished basement where the dog can hang out with another family member or friend and be let out without interrupting the flow of labor. Or there's sometimes other kids in the home during a home birth as well.
True. Yes. I mean, it's very important that when you plan for the home birth or the hospital birth, that you take all of this into consideration. So the way you would plan it for your older child, who is this child going to be with, the same way plan for the dog. Because sometimes even the most laid back dog might still have a reaction, right? And then it's not something that I want the laboring mom, to be thinking of.
Right. And certainly, as you mentioned, birth can be unpredictable. Even planned surgical births might happen before that planned date. And so having people to call, at knowing the schedule of the dog, and sometimes it's just coming over and letting the dog out, feeding the dog, but some births can be longer than expected. It could be an induction that's multiple days. So as you mentioned, having a plan in place so it doesn't worry the laboring mother and the partner. So it is best to get everything worked out before you go into labor and that water breaks, or you need to head to the hospital if it's your third baby and things move very quickly.
Absolutely. Yes. Always have a plan, always have a backup plan, or even multiple backup plans, because things can happen. And the person that you booked for your dog, like this happened a lot during COVID, that the people that were supposed to take care of the dog couldn't get there because they were isolating or sick, right? So it's something that you have to, or the daycare, the doggy daycare was closed. So it's important that you, of course, right now it's maybe less of an issue, but still things can happen. People can get sick. We've had the flu season this year has been quite a lot for many people get sick. So it's really important that it's not just one person on your list that you could call, but another person. And then if, let's say, this person has to get home while you're already in the hospital, how are they going to enter your house? Do they have the keys? Do they know the code? It's something it's a free resource. It's Dog Meets Baby Preparation Checklist. And this is something that I share there, all those things, little things that it's so easy to miss, because it was my dog walker who was taking care of Lola, but I had to go to the hospital sooner. So everything was like really rushed. It was like semi-emergency. And because I had preeclampsia, and she luckily had the keys because she was my dog walker. We literally had like an hour to pack and get to the hospital from the moment the doctor called. So it's just something that if it was someone else and I was counting on that person, it would have been different. Like we also had a plan. What if I have to go to the hospital in the middle of the night? Whom can I call? Because I knew that my father-in-law, he probably would be asleep and he wouldn't be able to pick up the phone. So it's something like little details, making sure that your dog is going to be safe, because to many of us, dogs are our fur babies. And it's very stressful if we have to leave already a little bit stressed like I was, and then not to know what's going to happen to my dog and when is this person going to come.
Exactly. And so I find that, as you mentioned, that instruction sheet for any caregiver who's helping out, whether it's a family member, dog walker, dog sitter, or there are some services that can come to your home and take the dog out to dog parks and so on. And just getting everything from how to enter, where the dog will be, how the dog will greet you, or is the dog going to be in a crate, for example. All of those details are helpful. And then with our overnight postpartum doulas and newborn care specialists, we're often arriving late at night. So when we are helping care for baby and the mother, we have a checklist as well of how to enter the house. Are there dogs? Do the dogs have any fears or concerns? And so that way we're fully prepared for how the night is going to go and how to anticipate the needs. So yes, so that is very helpful to have all of that information for a family member who might be popping in to check on the dog or let the dog out, or again, a doula who could be entering at a time when the household is quiet and the dog feels like they need to be on high alert.
And also making sure that there's something, I would love to know that this person also would be comfortable with dogs. So it's very important that you don't, like I always tell parents, if you are hiring a doula, you guys have to meet, and the doula ideally meets the dog. So the meeting is not at a cafe, it's your house, or you go for a walk. I don't want the doula to arrive when the mom just had the baby. And this is the first time when the dog sees a stranger, because I had a client where things absolutely did not go well and the doula ended up canceling on them because she was just, because the dog attacked her. And it was not the kind of dog that they could have anticipated. That dog was a Labrador, generally a friendly dog, but that not typical at all. But because of the change, the new baby in the house and just the change of the routine, this is the reaction that the dog had to the stranger entering their house, and the dog attacked her. And then I'm very scared of dogs, and this is just not going to work.
What does comfort that carries you from morning to night feel like? This March, Cozy Earth crafts every piece with care, from soft, supportive socks for your steps through the day to breathable comforters that help you rest deeply at night. Every detail is intentional, so your every day feels quietly elevated. A foundational Cozy Earth essential, crafted with intention to support deeper rest, designed with naturally breathable, temperature regulating materials. These luxuriously soft comforters help your body settle, cool, calm, and gently supported through the night. Thoughtful construction creates a cloud-like feel without heaviness or overheating, making it easier to unwind and wake feeling restored. Comfort in the details, because how you feel every day begins with how you sleep. Sleep is so important during pregnancy and essential in postnatal recovery. Invest in a Cozy Earth comforter, or better yet, add it to your baby registry to make your recovery time even more comfortable. Discover how care in every detail transforms simple routines into moments of true comfort and ease. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code GOLDCOAST for up to 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth on the Ask the Doulas podcast. Experience the craft behind the comfort and make every day feel intentional.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense to meet in person. And the idea of a walk with the dog makes a lot of sense if it's just too much disruption for the doula to meet at the home in advance. And then we like to arrive early for the first shift. So again, there's a little bit of that notice and meeting the dog in advance if the dog is going to be roaming the house. And sometimes, as I mentioned, they're kept in a room or in the basement, and the doula may not ever interact with the dog or dogs.
Absolutely. And I just think it's fair to both sides to know that there are dogs, to know where the dogs should be, and to know and to get to know each other, and to know if the dog can have treats or if there are any treats, and to know maybe what to do if the dog barks. Or like my friend of mine, she's a doula. She shared a story where the dog was supposed to be in the basement or in the crate. The dog was not supposed to be in the apartment or in the house. And suddenly she sees the dog loose there at night, staring at her and growling. So it's just, of course, this is just also making sure that maybe there is early postpartum. It's so easy to not to remember, maybe to lock the door, right? Or just like something, just making sure, like those are, of course, it's not something that's going to happen to everyone, but just having, I always tell parents that if you have a dog that does not like strangers in the house, always have 2 layers of safety, not just one, because it's so easy. When I had twins and I had that semi-emergency C-section, and one of my kids was in the NICU, it was a lot. So the early days, I barely remember them. So it's so easy to forget to lock the crate or to put the dog away, right? So always have 2 layers of safety. There is, I don't know, a crate and a door. It's not just a crate. That maybe the dog is in the basement and there is a gate and the door, or the dog is in the crate behind the gate. Just something for dogs who have known aggression issues towards strangers.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I love the 2 layer tip. So it helps, obviously, if a dog has been trained when you are dealing with other people in the household, introducing a baby, or in your case, twins. I know with both of the dogs I've had, I started with puppy school and in trainings where they get used to other children, say, petting the dog and the pulling and all of the little things that a toddler might be doing when, as you mentioned, that protective bubble is ideal, but having that tolerance. And so what tips do you have even in the preconception phase, if you know you want to plan for children and you have a dog that maybe hasn't been trained? What is your tip for getting them ready for other family members, for a baby? Do you recommend training even beyond the puppy phase?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a trainer, so I love training.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not something that I just do it as part of my daily routine. And my first dog, Lola, was very well trained. My second dog is not as well trained, but it's okay. She's trained enough. So what I would recommend, I also want parents who listen to, let's say you're in the 3rd trimester and you're panicking, hearing me say, train your dog their whole life. Think of this as a process. There is no deadline. Your dog should be trained by the time you are going to have your baby. It is a process and it will continue and it will change. So it's not something that you have to have it done by the time you deliver the baby. So it's important you have the baby. So I want parents to see it this way. If you have time to train before you have your child, it's also not about your dog knowing 10 different cues and being great at them. If you want to, of course. What I recommend is choose something that's going to be useful. And the ones that I find useful with little children is go to bed, stay, leave it. We all know how many things kids drop. There are many toys. There are many things
Pacifiers.
Exactly, pacifiers. So leave it and drop it. These will be 2 very useful cues. And if you want to remove your dog off the furniture, teaching them off is also helpful, or away if you want them to. But it could be just go to bed. Cues where you teach them to go to a certain location. And so just like have a few, choose the ones that you're going to need in your daily life. Once you're pregnant, practice them while you hold something, because remember, you will not be probably pointing. You might be pointing with your elbow, but because you will be holding something, your baby or something for the baby, you're not going to have hands the same way you're pointing right now. So hold something. It could be a bottle wrapped up in a baby blanket, and practice the voice commands and maybe using your elbow. So you could, like I did that. And it was definitely very helpful because that was not a new picture to my dog. So it's important that you introduce it before you have a baby. What you mentioned, the being comfortable with being touched. This one is a little bit tricky because there is no safe way to train with, like, let's say if your dog is mildly afraid of children, I would not necessarily train with children that you don't know if your dog might do something to them, because that's a liability. And you're probably not going to be able to train with the age group that is the one that's most scary for dogs, which are the newly mobile infants and young toddlers, right?
Right.
You're going to be training with your friends or your cousins, maybe 3-year-old or 5-year-old. So already, like, for a dog, it's a huge difference. A 3-year-old or 5-year-old, it's not a 1-year-old. It's not a crawling baby. So it's a huge difference. So of course you can have your dog, when your dog is around children, throw treats at your dog or give your dog treats. If your dog happily approaches them, they can give their dog treats. So creating positive associations around the children, absolutely. You can make sure that your dog likes being touched or when the paws are touched and tail, but this may not translate to your baby grabbing your dog. So it's not something that you will be able to really practice before you have your baby. And your dog might not be comfortable with how your baby, and probably won't be, how your baby grabs the fur and twists or grabs really hard and pulls, right? This is not something that a lot of times, there is a way to practice this, but I would say most people are going to, unless you follow the steps of how to do it right, you can actually sensitize the dog to certain things. You can sometimes make it work. So if your dog is really comfortable with touch and handling, I would recommend talking to a professional so they can guide you. So you don't end up with a dog now absolutely does not want to be touched by anyone, because when they see you holding a treat, they know that you're going to touch them. So now they stop eating treats. And that can happen very fast if the dog is already a little bit skeptical about it. So that's something that, of course, positive experiences with children, making sure that the children you don't take the dog to a birthday party of a 2-year-old when there are, let's say, 10 toddlers running around and screaming.
Yes.
Because that's going to be very scary to a dog. Unless it's a puppy, maybe that would be okay if you do like controlled way. But for most dogs, this is called flooding. It's a very negative experience. It's not going to really help them to create a positive association. It's the opposite. You're going to really scare your dog. And so it's important that we teach them in a way that's beneficial. So slower pace, more distance, good treats. Yes.
That is so helpful. So I have a couple questions related to that first meeting with baby and the dog or multiple dogs. The first one is, what are your thoughts about bringing something home that smells like the baby? And are you a fan of that, like a little blanket or stuffed animal?
There is nothing wrong with this. If the parents want to do it, they can do it. But it is a myth. It's generally not something that will change much. If you think about it, when you bring a blanket from the hospital, there are so many smells on it, right? Like there are people who touched it. There are the hospital smells. There is the scent of the baby, but it's one of several scents. Now, you're presenting it to your dog. To many dogs, when you show them something, their natural reaction is to grab it. If a dog likes to play tug of war, they might start playing tug of war because they think, oh, that looks like a new toy. Some parents have shared that the dog ripped it apart and then they were extremely stressed out because they imagined that's what the dog would do to their child. And some dogs don't care, and some dogs cuddle with it as they would cuddle with a different blanket. It does not have much to do with the scent of the baby. You can absolutely do it. It's not going to do a single introduction to the item. It's not going to do anything. Now, the exception is, and this is something that I didn't do it because my son was in the NICU only for 5 days. Let's say you have your child in the NICU longer, 2 weeks or a month, and you come home. At this point, you are home and you go to the hospital to see your baby every day. You can bring a baby item home with you, let the dog smell, give a treat, and then do it the next day. If you do it this way, your dog is definitely going to make an association with the baby smell because this is going to be a consistent smell among the other smells. They are able to recognize, oh, that one particular smell is always on the item that the parents bring with them. Plus, there will be, of course, the baby smell on the parents, on their clothes. So it's going to be the dominant smell. And this way, if you make them, you're exposing them to the smell, plus you're pairing it with a treat. This is how you can create a positive association. But there has to be a repetition.
That makes more sense. Yes, because I have heard that is false, but with the NICU and repeated visits, it makes a lot more sense. What are your tips for entering the home with a baby or multiples, like in your case, for the first time with the dog?
Yeah, so here we have two options. So sometimes you enter the house and the dog is somewhere else. That was our case. So the dog stays with a family member, friends, at a dog sitter, right? So it's not a lot of times, like I would say it's 50-50. Sometimes dogs are home, but a lot of times they stay somewhere else. So if your dog is not home, it's going to be a different scenario. If your dog is home, and it's actually for both, ideally you exercise whoever has the dog, person that takes care of the dog, they exercise the dog really well, take the dog for a walk. So the dog is a little bit tired or more tired. Then ideally the dog meets the parents before meeting the baby. And most dogs are going to be very excited to see them or the dad or the moms because they haven't seen them for a while, especially the mom. So this is, you want them to be excited first around mom. And this way, they also smell the baby, right? The smell of the baby is on the mom. So this is a good positive association with the baby and the first introduction to the smell, or one of the first. And ideally, the dog first meets the car seat, if I can say so. Let's say the baby is in the nursery or someone is holding the baby and you leave the car seat right in the center of the room, and you let the dog smell if the baby has just arrived, right? So, and there was a lot of smell in that car seat. So that's something, of course, I would recommend introducing the car seat before the baby's in it. So it's not a new object that they are now terrified of. So that part is important. But having some items with baby scent is always helpful. And then I know that many parents want the dog to meet the baby as soon as possible, but to be honest, you don't have to. Like especially if you have a 2-story house, and let's say the baby is upstairs and you have a gate on the stairs because you always had it, or you just decided to have it now. It's fine if the dog is downstairs and hangs out with you and just maybe hears the baby a little bit and smells. They're going to get used to the baby at a slower pace. That's absolutely okay. And sometimes it's good to know that maybe you had something different in mind, but then in the moment when you brought the baby home, you're suddenly anxious. And what many parents tell me is, when I brought the baby home for the first time, I realized that I live with an animal that has a jaw full of teeth. So sometimes you may see your dog in a very different light, and suddenly you don't really, if you need time, take your time. You can absolutely keep introducing your dog to the baby blankets and the onesies and the hats, having them around, letting your dog sniff, hear the baby. And when you're ready, let the dog meet the baby. And then typically there are many options, but the 3 main options would be the baby's in the car seat, the baby is in the nursery, in the crib, or someone holds the baby.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
so based on comfort level and the temperament of the dog, of course.
One dog at a time. So there are, again, some exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, you want the dogs to meet the baby separately because a lot of times their reaction is not going to be the same. And this way you will know, oh, this dog is totally chill, doesn't care. Sometimes parents tell me, I don't think the dog noticed that there was a baby. Mm-hmm. Like some dogs are just really they just don't really care. Maybe sometimes they start noticing the baby later. Whereas some dogs, they or they bark or they whine or they look very stressed. And you don't want the other dog that would have been super chill otherwise now to pick up on this energy and start doing the same behavior. And many times they will do this. I work with a family with 2 yellow Labradors, and one didn't care about the baby. The other one wasn't. Because they met the baby together, they were both barking and jumping. They're very bonded dogs, very bonded with each other. So they were both like, I've got your back. Yes, let's bark and jump. And it looked terrifying. 2 giant dogs, big labs, trying to get to the baby. And the second one was there just for, was a good companion.
Yeah, that makes sense. So many good tips. And I know you have amazing training that are virtual. So our listeners who live all over the world can take advantage of working with you. They don't have to just be local to you for in-person trainings.
Yes, that's true. So we have for the expecting parents, we have 2 online courses. It's the preparation course that covers the preparation and the training. And then there is the first meeting course. It's a shorter course that focuses on the first meeting, what to do before the first meeting, all the necessary information, and the 4th trimester, or the first week at home and the 4th trimester. We also have a private group for the course participants that is very supportive. It's such a nice group of parents who get it. Because when you have a dog or dogs and a child, it's not the same as just having a child, because a lot of times you feel guilty that you don't have time for your dog. And there are just so many emotions as a new mom. You can resent your dog. You can feel guilty. You can grieve the relationship that you had. And it's good to have a support system from parents who also go through this or who went through this and now they are on the other side. So I find this group extremely supportive. And I know that many parents do too. And you have access to me, the trainer, in the courses too. So people always ask me questions, and every dog, every household is different. And while the course covers as much as we could, there are situations that we're not going to cover because it's very specific to you. I mentioned earlier, there are exceptions to the rule of let's have the dogs to meet the baby one at a time. There are absolutely cases where I would say, no, they have to meet these 2. Based on what you told me, I recommend they meet the baby together.
And you can learn from other people in questions.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
may not come up with it. That's what I love about community.
Yes, me too.
So your website is dogmeetsbaby.expert.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
then Dominika, you are all over social. You've got a great YouTube channel. So tell us how we can find you on social media.
Yes, I have a YouTube channel. I would say I post more on Instagram right now.
Okay.
But the YouTube channel has videos of the training videos or how to introduce a stroller to the dog, pre-baby training videos. But otherwise, it's Instagram, dogmeets_baby.
Excellent. And you mentioned the checklist. So we will include that in the show notes for bringing home baby tip and anyone else who's involved in the care.
I would say the checklist is a good starting point, and there will be things that you'll be able to check off right away. That's the whole point, that most parents, I don't want them to feel like, oh, this is too much. No, there are many things that your dog probably already knows. There are certain things that it's just the planning, like key for the person picking up the dog or code, right? Just making sure that you have a plan here. And the other one that's very important, that's also a freebie, baby sound library recorded by the moms from my community. We have all the possible baby sounds there, including different types of pooping, because pooping is one of those sounds that scares dogs. So you really want to make sure that your dog hears it before, that explosive poop, and different types of crying. Many people make the mistake that before I had my children, I also didn't know that the newborn sounds are different than a 6-month-old cries. So it's very important that you introduce your dog to the newborn sounds. And I think we even have some preemie babies there too. So it's important that your dog hears it all not loud crying 1-year-old.
So many great tips. I'll have to have you back on again to talk about toddlers in the future, but I appreciate your time. Do you have any final words of wisdom to share with our listeners, Dominika?
Yes, I would say that having a child and a dog can be challenging at times, and it's a lot of work and there will be many emotions, but there is something so special when you see your child and your dog bonding and you are not part of that bond. When you see them having that relationship and just watching that is just magical.
I love it. Well, thank you again and have an amazing day.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.